Welcome to this video on Collaborati vendor activations. We will review the process used for vendor activation. We will not be reviewing merging firms or search tips in this video. Please see our other training videos for more information on those processes. In this presentation, we'll be reviewing the flowchart used for making decisions, as well as the new office, existing office, and new firm implementation. We'll be reviewing Collaborati administration and Salesforce maintenance. First, the flowchart. The flowchart here is used for making decisions. At the top here, match the new vendor request on the same or similar name, tax ID, and city. Then ask a short series of questions. For example, does this vendor have one or more offices? If the answer is yes, does an existing office match? If the answer is yes, does the client use eCounsel? No. Then the decision is existing office. If the vendor has no offices, then the decision is quickly made up at the top. No, new firm. With this set of answers, you may have several questions. Does this vendor have one or more offices? Yes. Does an existing office match? No. At this point, you may need to reach out to the vendor and client. Do you want to use a new vendor or existing firm? Or do you prefer to use an existing office? Does the vendor want to use an existing office? No. Does the vendor want a new firm? No. The decision is new office. So use the flowchart to help you with the decision. Note also that there are some blue shapes. These are questions for eCounsel clients that have special requirements for the tax ID. If you use any of these rectangle boxes, you may need help with the discrepancies, such as, is there a different tax ID? Or do you think the vendor has a preference? There are some templates to use to help you ask these questions. The templates are in the Templates folder in Salesforce called Collaborati Support T-Firms. The first two templates help with asking about firm preference, and you'll CC the client in case the vendor prefers using their existing office. The second two templates ask about tax ID discrepancies. One is a basic tax ID discrepancy, and one is a little bit longer where there might be multiple accounts. The last two templates are about other types of issues that may come up, such as deactivated vendors that are labeled do not use, or an email address is not valid. You can use these templates to help you compose questions for the vendor, and often you'll CC the client. Now let's go over the new office implementation. You'll log into Collaborati and you'll click on Offices and then click on Add Office. Create a new office record and you'll choose an existing firm here. Then assign the client to the office account. In Salesforce, first create the account in Salesforce. You may need to check if there's an existing account. If there's not an account, be sure to create a new account. Then you'll send two emails. Send the setup guide, also called the welcome package, to the vendor only using the Collaborati existing vendor add HTML template. Reply to the client. Use the vendor add client response HTML with choice template and select the correct response. For case maintenance, you'll need to add a case comment about the office and client, fill out the required fields, and then close out the support ticket. For the existing office implementation, you'll log into Collaborati, click on Offices, and find the correct office and assign the client to the office account. In Salesforce, you won't need to create the new account, but you will need to send 2 emails. Send the setup guide to the vendor only using the Collaborati existing vendor add HTML template, and then reply to the client using the vendor add client response HTML with choice template. Again, we have case maintenance, add a case comment about the office and the client, fill out the required fields, close out the support case. For the new firm implementation, you'll log into Collaborati as the MeterCheck admin, and this time you'll click on Firms and Add Firm, create the new firm record, then click on Offices and Add Office. Then you can create a new office record and make sure to choose the firm from step 1. Then assign the client to the office account. In Salesforce, you'll need to create the law firm account in Salesforce unless there's an existing account. And you'll need to send 2 emails. Send the setup guide to the vendor only using the Collaborati firm vendor add HTML template, and then reply to the client using the vendor add client response HTML with choice template. Make sure to select the correct choice. You'll use the case maintenance to finish out the ticket, add a case comment about the office and client, fill out the required fields, and close out the support case. Now we'll be doing a vendor activation demonstration. In this demonstration, we'll be reviewing the vendor activation for 3 fictional law firms, and this is going to be in Test Collaborati, and we will use the flowchart to determine which implementation to use for each of the law firms, and we'll be using Acme Corporation as our client. You can see here is the email that we received from Acme Corporation. The first vendor we have listed is Ruberti Law, LLC. We also have MGL Law and Dalmatian Law offices. So with that, we'll begin the demonstration. First, we'll be reviewing Ruberti Law, LLC. So does this vendor have 1 or more offices? The answer is no. So we'll be using new firm for this office. Let's check the next one. So it looks like MGL Law has 2 existing offices and 1 firm. And we can see here that the new office that has been requested is in Atlanta. Does this vendor have 1 or more offices? Yes. Does an existing office match? No. So we need to ask the vendor and client, do you want to use a new or existing firm, or do you prefer using an existing office? And so once we get the answer to that question, we can answer these next 2 questions. Does the vendor want to use an existing office, or does the vendor want a new firm? For our last office, we can see that Dalmatian Law Offices is actually a match. So we can answer, does this vendor have 1 or more offices? Yes. Does an existing office match? Yes. We can even check if the tax ID is a match. It looks like it's very similar. It doesn't have a dash in there. And the city is a match. So that would conclude that yes, an existing office matches. Does this client use eCounsel? So Acme Corporation does not use eCounsel. The answer is no. And so here we'll get to the decision existing office. So now I will be sending out those emails and assigning the offices as requested. And while we're waiting for the vendor to send a response on that, we can finish our other vendor activation by sending the welcome package to Roberti Law. Normally, you won't need to replace the client name, but in this particular test instance, I did have to replace it. So now it looks like the vendor has responded. Now I'll send my final email to the client and close out the case. All right, my case is closed now.